He says he'll be focusing on championing the player voice and building that voice into everything that Jagex does for RuneScape. And it's at that point I also want to say that in his presentation, it looks very professional as well. And from what we've seen here so far this week and the Reddit post, I think he's a good communicator so far. What's your take on what we've seen? Because I know we've looked at a number of people like this in the past.
So far, I think he's saying and doing the right thing. When he said, want to listen, put the player voice first, I can't help but to think, okay, but whose voice? Because we are not all on the same page. So whose voice is going to be heard? And that ends up being
Reddit
important. Because that is usually the voice that is heard, right? And it doesn't always reflect the game as a whole. That I'm very curious though to see how he manages the changes to the games. I don't want to say how he spins things, but how he frames things, because you gotta frame it in the right way. And if you do that, then you alleviate a lot of trouble down the road. A lot of stuff is in framing, so I'm really curious to see how he frames, and we'll get our first look at that probably when the Animate Dead and Fractured Staff changes drop.
Yeah. He also said he was brought in to be more visible, more present, and help the JMods have more discussions with the community in general on this. And in particular, one of the things that was mentioned was actually doing more live streams, because I was remarking to somebody, I forget who it was, that the amount of RS3 live streams we have by CM versus the amount of OS live streams are truly stark and staggering, and it'd be nice to get back to that. So if he's able to deliver on that, that will be wonderful. Thaxi, opening opinion?
I mean, I had a thought on this. The biggest thing for me is kind of like you're saying, in terms of, I think, how it's going to line up with whatever everyone else is doing, if that makes any sense, right? So we've got the new manager for the game. We've got new leadership for how things are being produced, who very clearly does want to go back to putting out more behind the scenes and more roadmaps, right? We've seen a lot more of those over the last year. And I'm curious if Doom is going to be a new tool for kind of having that outreach, having those, trying to do more of those releases, right? Like we were talking about it with the stuff this week for the Quest release next week, that I'm not a huge fan of it being released as a, if people aren't going to read it in the Quest, they're not going to read it on a news post. That's for dang sure. I think having things that are fun live streams, I think a live stream would get more people interested and engaged in a lot of that stuff. And I'm sure it was they did show that, but even so, I think having more engaging live streams on upcoming content, if they're going to either tease or announce or whatever it is, right? If they're going to give us warning for content, whatever that looks like, I think having those more live streams about it can only be for the good, and I hope that he keeps that up. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say I really agree with that, because if you look at some of the more successful people in CM, they were very active, right? They were active. They had a lot of live streams.
Lee.
Absolutely. Yes, those were the two names that I was going to bring up. And even Porky would get out there some, right? We just haven't seen that same kind of level of that. But I think what it does is it gives people a chance to to kind of participate, to be heard a little bit, but also having that JMod there to continue to frame the argument, to frame the discussion, to show people why it's fun. This is how you do it, though. Check this out.
Give it the actual, not spin is a bad connotation to it, but effectively to give it the spin, to say, hey, here's the things people are talking about with this, but also there's this, and this is cool.
Yeah,
right.
To show people why, right? Like
be
it's
that
an
hype machine. Be willing to be that voice that does those things.
And there's going to be people in the community who are going to say, if he's going to be playing the game, shouldn't he have more knowledge and whatnot? But I don't think you need that to be a successful CM. What I do think you need is that ability to be one with the community and be on the same wavelength as them. And if he's playing the game and just picked it up, we all know from Fresh Start Worlds how fun the beginning and mid game is. And if he can share that with the wider community and build relationships with that and use that as an additional skill set on top of the communication styles that we've seen this week in the Reddit post and the live stream, you pair all those together with the right framing, like you said, Tanis, this could be the start of something very good.
Yes.
And right, to be fully clear, there are a lot of people at Jagex who know the game so innately to such an incredibly deep level that is so incredibly not his job.
Exactly.
Like, it certainly wouldn't hurt. I'm not going to say he shouldn't know anything about the game. But if his job is to be a voice for the players, as he's saying, right, if he can just be a good conduit passing things that we're saying to the people who know what they're doing and are doing the design work, 10 out of 10 good work, right? Even if you never pick up the game. I would love to hear you picking up the game and enjoying it, but that is less important to me than doing the job well like that.
Yeah, for example, from another game, Star Trek Online. The Star Trek Online CM. He plays the game at what the core of the player base level plays the game at, but in terms of relaying the concerns that a lot of the people have in the high-end meta DPS chasing scene, he is 100% able to relay those concerns and get those people on the stream who need to talk about those sorts of things.
Yep. Yeah. And I look at this as kind of like, okay, don't lose sight that CM means manager at the end of the day, right? So think about in your own life at work. Your manager doesn't have to be the best at the particular job you do. You want them to be the best at managing the team and the people.
If they're supporting you, they're doing their job. Their goal is to support you and to support the success of the organization. And if Doom is able to keep, like, if that's his goal, if that's what he wants to do, and if he does it well, kudos, please. So happy to have him.
And that's what we need at this point, if I'm being 100% honest. Because there was an admission in the live stream that when Mod Warden came in, one of the initial directives that he brought in was that he effectively brought in directives that said, don't over-discuss, don't put out promises that are missed. And as a result, that was addressed by shutting down communication, which he actually addressed on the episodes we had him on. And with this, Hooli said that, we never got back to actually having these discussions and being open and visible. And that's what this is about.
Right. Well, this is a chance to walk and chew gum at the same time. Right? You can be involved and you can communicate with the community without oversharing and overpromising. So that's what I'm hoping for.
I mean, it's all about the internal expectations. We've made memes for years. Let's not sugarcoat this about, they promised it in September, we'll see it in January.
Yeah.
Like, let's not be... There is a reason
the
they
summer
shut down
2017
we shouldn't totally do this. However, lately they've been very good. Since even, like, the release of Archaeology, where they said, hey, pandemic, give us an extra 1 month. We're like, 1 month. We'll see it in September. And then it was there a month later. Like, they've been good about stuff pretty much since then, at least. And so, if they're keeping that up and they're willing to tell us about it in advance, they're getting back comfortable with that, yes.
And then if you think otherwise, I'll just say to anybody else out there, question the lens at which you are viewing the community. Because that also goes into framing that your perspective on this is effectively creating two subjective different experiences about what's happening in the RS community. That's not to say either of them are wrong, it's just about perception and how people see it.